I started doing something last week here in the barn that made me laugh out loud regularly. And at times I would stop and think, this is ridiculous. And that's why I was laughing. I'm making a doll's head out of plasticine. I'm making it out of plasticine with the goal of making a mold from this. A plaster mold like this. I made this plaster mold in 2012 in Munich. It's a man's head based on a man's head that I saw on a neoclassical facade of a building in Munich. And so I sculpted the man's head out of plasticine, poured plaster over it, then I have a mold, and I've used this so many times for flower pots. I'll go to Guy Wolf's, we'll make flower pots, and then we'll press the red clay into this mold, pull it out, and we have this beautiful neoclassical man's head that we stick onto the flower pots. So I will take this doll's head, if it works, if it turns out how I like, and I will make a mold from this, and then with the mold I can pour liquid porcelain into it and make multiples of this doll's head. And I was inspired to do this because many years ago when I was in high school, in sculpture class, I made a porcelain doll. I think I made two. My friend Laura has one. I saw it recently and I was impressed with the work that I did in high school. It was really nice. It looked like this, similar to this. It was based on an old Victorian doll. I made one of these. I made the porcelain head, the hands, the feet, but I didn't have an original as a reference. So I was just making it based on what I thought it was in my head. And when I got this little lady a few weeks ago, I was inspired to try to reproduce her. So last week I just pulled out the plasticine and started sculpting. It has to be 20% larger than this because the porcelain will shrink. And while I was doing this, I was just reminded of how long I've been doing things like this. Seemingly silly, ridiculous things. Many times when I have the creative inspiration to just try something, I'll try and then I will either lose interest and abandon it completely, or it just won't work and then I'll abandon it. Or I'll work on it and it will work. But the whole point of this and sharing this with you is I recognized something last week as I was making this head. And that is that I've been doing this since I was a kid. Like since I was a kid, if I was just really struck with the inspiration to try to make something, I would do it. And I would often set aside my homework and not do my homework in place of needing to fill this desire to create something. And I've never lost that. As an adult, I think it's very valuable to listen to that. If it strikes you, I think I would like to try to make a margarita, a nice frozen margarita at home. I've never made one before. Many people probably have those thoughts and those creative inspirations strike them. I think what then happens is you walk through all the steps, or you walk through what it would take to go from the idea of making a frozen margarita to actually having one in your hand. And walking through all the steps that it would take to make that happen is sometimes too overwhelming, that you just kind of breathe the inspiration out and you think, I'll just go to a bar and have a margarita. Why go through all that work? Well, with something like this, it's very tempting to think, oh, I think I would like to try to make this. I think I would like to try to reproduce these dolls. And then to think, why? Why would I do that? And to have to justify the why with, oh, maybe I can make them and start selling them, that's a trap. Like, to have to justify why you want to do something. I would like to inspire people watching this, or to encourage, I should say, people to just do it. To just do it. When you're struck with a creative inspiration, make that inspiration into a creative act. And that the doing of the thing that came from the inspiration is enough. Don't think beyond just doing what you're doing or what you want to do. And when I was sculpting this doll's head, this has taken a long time. I'll start, and then it's so finicky and tiny, and it's very anatomical. Like I have to look at it from all different angles. I look at this one from all different angles. It is three-dimensional. It is anatomical. It's based on a facial structure, and I was very fortunate to have studied this in Florence at the Florence Academy when I did my écorché class. So I have in my head and my notes references of the frontal eminences of the skull and all those things. So this has become a very technical exercise, and when I get tired of doing it for the day, I set it aside and I go do something else. So I've been working on this little head for over a week here and there. It's tempting to justify why I'm doing this, justify it to myself. Like, oh, maybe I'll make these porcelain dolls and then I'll sell them. And then all this time will be worthwhile. I would suggest don't do that. Don't pull yourself out of the present moment of doing this just because you want to do it. Because when we start to have to justify why we're doing something, very often we stop ourselves from even starting the thing. Oh, that's probably not practical, or the overhead costs are going to be too much, or I don't have that skills, so no one would ever buy my stuff. Or yeah, I'll do this and I'll sell them and I'll make money from it, and then you go into this mental cycle of the future of what could happen from something like that, making something like this, and you pull yourself away from just focusing on enjoying the process of trying something new, trying to make something. And this creative inspiration that can be turned into a creative act where you're actually doing the thing is such a very special gift to give yourself. And it stops being a gift when you have all these external pressures of, oh, but the margarita, like I can't just make a margarita just for myself. So I guess I'll do it when I invite my friends over. So then I'll have a picture of them, and then you invite the friends over, and then there's this pressure. There's this pressure of, oh, it has to be a certain way because other people are going to drink it and think about it. So this is where I say, like, when you have that inspiration, just do it, and just do it for yourself. Make the whole pitcher of margaritas, even if it means just drinking one. Because something does come from that. Even if it never turns into anything later, in the moment, you start to learn that you're capable of having an idea, having a creative idea, and then making it happen. And this is something that as adults, I think we've lost from when we were kids. When we were kids, we were encouraged and allowed to play. And playtime was filled with being able to imagine and pretend and do. And we were allowed that. And then as we grow older, there's the pressure to be productive and to be using your time wisely. And that pressure stops us from doing things that maybe have absolutely no goal in the end. I mean, tomorrow I might just crumple this up and forget about it. I made some pots last week. I made some flower pots last week based on an idea that I had in my head of antique flower pots I'd seen in England. They were really thin and very delicate. And they had a tiny rim, and I've seen them here and there when I've been in England and have been antiquing, and I thought I'm going to try to make that shape. They're kind of bowl-like. So I made some. I made about 7 of them, and I thought they were really good, and I set them aside. And then the next day I thought I'm going to try to do that again and make them even thinner. So I made the next day's pots. They were even thinner. And then the first day's pots, I looked at them and I was like, oh, those first day's pots aren't that good. And I didn't like them anymore. So I scrapped them all, and I'm recycling the clay. It's actually outside drying right now. But I needed to do that first thing. I needed to just jump in and try to make this shape and just do it in order to start the process. And what that did is it led to the place where the pots, I'll go bring one over. I just love them. It's like just a standard, it's what I would call the full pot, just a plain English flower pot. It has, I made a really sort of round, thin rim, and the first day's pots were like half the size. But I know now how to do this because I've been doing this for so long. I've been doing it since I was a kid, since the days of playing, and I never lost it. I kept it alive, and I've listened to it, and I've kind of like planting a seed and watering it. I've allowed it to grow. So now, when I'm struck with this inspiration to just try something and do it, I just do it. And I don't think beyond just doing it. And I'll sit and I'll work away at it, and very often, nothing comes of it. The things that you're never ever going to hear about or see because they came into my life for a day and then they just left as soon as with the same speed as they arrived, they just kind of left. But every now and then it turns into something. And this is the sort of the thing that I'm going to say that's a temptation that I don't want to plant in your head. Many of the things have turned into stuff that I've made into a career, like calligraphy. I started a calligraphy business 13 years ago, and the calligraphy was born out of just a childhood hobby of just doing it for the fun of doing it, learning how to write beautifully by hand. I did that since I was 11, 12 years old, and then when I was an adult, I had the skill to actually turn it into a business. But it didn't start from a place of, oh, I'm going to learn how to do calligraphy so I can make money from it. And that's what I would like to share. When you have this idea in your head, even if it's just a little idea, like a moment where you think, ooh, I think I would like to try to make this, or I think I would like to try that, do it. Just do it. Set aside some time just for yourself. Gather your tools and your supplies or your ingredients if it's cooking something, or if it's a class, find an instructor. Even if the class doesn't look like it's super high level, just do it. I don't know what's going to happen with this little lady, but that's not the point. The time that I've spent working on her has been great so far. That's my message. The creative act.